China is lashing out at Canada today, calling the claims that it targeted Conservative MP Michael Chong and his family, quote, slander and defamation. The Trudeau government summoned the Chinese ambassador yesterday to answer for the threats made by China against Chong and his family in Hong Kong. Chong had criticized Beijing for its human rights violations. Canada is considering expelling Chinese diplomats over the issue. China says that the allegations are nonsense and that they've lodged a strong protest with Canada's ambassador to China.
It's inexplicable why this diplomat continues to remain in Canada. The government effectively might as well put up a large billboard for authoritarian states around the world to say, you can conduct these foreign interference threat activities here through your diplomats here in Canada against Canadians, and there'll be no consequences. No decision should be taken to ignore a threat to the safety and security of Canadians because the government's worried about some Canadian company losing money. This is appalling.
And this is all happening as the Liberals gather for their party's convention in Ottawa. Joining us now for more is Tom Mulcair, CTV News political commentator and former NDP leader. Good morning to you, Tom.
Good to be with you, Lois.
So, Tom, let's start with the fact that at the Liberals convention last night, when Justin Trudeau kicked off the convention with his speech, he really took aim at Pierre Poilievre during that speech. We'll get to Michael Chong in just a moment, but I did want to talk to you about this because we have a clip of what he was saying here. Let's listen to it.
They either say investing in Canadians is a waste of money, or that our policies are too woke. Too woke? Hey, Pierre Poilievre, it's time for you to wake up.
Tom, there has been a lot of fire coming at the Liberals as of late with different issues, foreign interference, of course, a lot of the criticisms from the Conservative Party. What did you make of what Justin Trudeau had to say yesterday?
It's unnatural for Justin Trudeau to be making that sort of very personal attack. One of Trudeau's best qualities is he rarely stoops to personal attacks. And it seems that Poilievre is starting to really get to him. You can sense it in the House. Trudeau has trouble answering. He's off cue. He's not comfortable. Poilievre is a real steamroller when he gets going, and he pushes and he pushes and he pushes. And Trudeau doesn't like it. And it's certainly the toughest opposition that Trudeau's faced since he became prime minister. I think he's making a mistake. I recall Michelle Obama's admonition that when they go low, you go high. Trudeau didn't even seem comfortable delivering that prepared line. He was reading it. It was a prepared speech, and it didn't come off naturally. So I read into it a sign of worry on the part of Trudeau and the Liberals with regard to the strength of Poilievre. He's in a room full of his partisans, and that's fine. I'm not sure the average Canadian is even comfortable with the word woke, what it's supposed to refer to, and so forth. I think that Poilievre has lots of qualities, lots of failings, and his policies do as well. Let's stay on that level and find out what he's proposing and see what the Trudeau Liberals have got to propose. So far, I haven't been hearing very much from them. We'll see if anything else comes out of the weekend in terms of ideas.
Yeah, and just very quickly on that, there are some different guests that are expected, sit-downs between cabinet ministers and Jean Chrétien and Hillary Clinton as well. Just very quickly on that, is it common for Canadian political parties to have American or foreign former dignitaries come in?
No, but there's a long-standing connection between the Liberals and the Democratic Party. When I was the head of the NDP, we also worked a fair bit with the National Democratic Institute, which is an offshoot of the Democratic Party. And so having Hillary Clinton there is of course, of great interest. And they had to start filling up the weekend because this date was chosen long before we knew the date of the coronation. And of course, Mr. Trudeau has to be at the coronation. Otherwise, everybody would criticize him for that. And so they had to fill up the weekend. So they went and got one of their last remaining superstars, who, of course, is Jean Chrétien, and they rented one from south of the border in Hillary Clinton, a highly respected former candidate for presidency against Donald Trump. She lost that election, but she was, of course, a highly respected Secretary of State for the U.S. So she'll sit on the stage and she'll do a fireside chat type of exercise with Chrystia Freeland. That'll help boost Freeland because, of course, she has never taken her eyes off the prize of eventually replacing Trudeau. And there'll be people in the hall like, oh, Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of Canada, who I think is probably the person who is the most attractive, other than Chrystia Freeland, to the Liberal base as a potential successor to Trudeau. So a lot of that will be going on this weekend as well. When the cat's away, the mice will play.
Okay, and Tom, just finally here, we do have to talk, of course, about the situation with China right now, between Canada and China, the relationship there now after Canada called the Chinese ambassador. The statement that the ambassador put out says that he was essentially warning Canada not to go further down the wrong and dangerous path, saying that China will play along every step of the way until the very end. What are you expecting to see here?
Things are really heating up. And one of the problems that we have is that Canada has not been very straight in these dealings. We got information that China had played an absolutely inappropriate role in interfering in the election process here in Canada. We know about the Vancouver election, where Kennedy Stewart was defeated. We know that in the province of Ontario, Doug Ford had to ask for a member of his caucus to step away. And we've known about any number of cases in Ottawa. So whether it's federal, provincial, or municipal, there's been inappropriate activity by the Chinese government and the Chinese Communist Party. They've got recordings of that. They know what's happened. They're able to prove it. Now the Chinese government is pushing back very hard and using very strong terms. And we have to pay attention to that, because they're saying on this Michael Chong issue that it's just being made up. Now, obviously, I don't have those tapes. But what I'm measuring is the strength of the reaction from the Chinese government. And this is a diplomatic game. And of course, they're not going to come right out and say, oh, yes, we threatened his family. But there is some tone here where they're basically saying, be careful about your information. This one might not be true. What was also apparently not true was when Mr. Trudeau yesterday morning said, oh, I had to talk to CSIS and tell them, when you have this sort of information, you better make sure it makes its way up the system, because we never learned about it. Well, Michael Chong, by the end of the day yesterday, was putting the lie to that, saying, no. I've been told by Trudeau's own security responsible person that they knew about it. And so we already know, because Trudeau's chief of staff, Katie Telford, said, oh yeah, Trudeau reads everything and I get everything in briefings from that security expert who's responsible to us. The story is breaking apart. Trudeau's probably very happy to be flying to London right now and being away for a few days, but it's going to start again next week. So it goes to David Johnston. When are we going to finally get a commission of inquiry? What's the mandate going to be? Who are they going to put in there? Is this going to be one more attempt to put a lid on there's been a massive cover-up attempt. They've used people to try to justify their inaction who are intimately related to the Trudeau Foundation. So the whole thing, for the average Canadian, it's really starting to stink. They don't believe the government's story anymore. And I think that at some point, there's going to have to be real action towards a full public inquiry by a real commission of inquiry with full powers to compel production of documents, testimony of witnesses, and do it publicly and do it fast, because Canadians are not going to put up with this anymore.
All right. Tom Mulcair, CTV News political commentator and former NDP leader, joining us on this. Thanks so much, Tom.